Welcome back to the Wolverine.com podcast, our video edition. I'm John Borton here with Tom Crawford, our man in East Lansing, behind enemy lines and always ready to go for Michigan. Tom, we're going to talk some football and
Yes.
basketball today, and I know you are ready for both of those. Welcome back to the podcast.
Well, it's great to be back here. What are we at? December 21st. Is that the darkest day there is in the world in the winter here in the Midwest? And it's all, days are going to get brighter moving forward, going up to December 31st. I cannot wait to be down in Miami. Finally, Michigan is in the college football playoff, and I cannot wait.
Absolutely. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Michigan in the playoff. We're first going to touch on a couple other subjects because there has been a renewal of the incoming Wolverines, and that would be the early signing day. I just wanted to get a few impressions from you because we know that a Big Ten championship and a playoff berth does wonders to change the perception of your program. And it looked like to me, Michigan finished certainly stronger than it would have if it had had the kind of Novembers that it's had of late.
Yeah, and that's the problem. I'll go on record as saying, along with probably a lot of other folks, that this December signing period has got to end. It is so problematic in so many ways with the transfer portal ingredient. I can't stand it. It's got to go back. Let's go with that early signing period in early August. If you want to commit, early. There's your early commit time before your high school camp opens, before Michigan's camp opens. Lock in, okay, and then do the traditional February thing, which was a ball of fun. I love that first Wednesday in February. This thing is all right in the middle of bowl prep and all that other stuff. I cannot stand it. I hope they change it. That being said, and I was talking to Anthony before you jumped on here. It's so nice to have Michigan end on a good note, with Ohio, because now all of a sudden in December, everything is thumbs up for the Wolverine football program, and we saw a rating of what 15, 17, whatever Michigan was in the recruiting rankings. Maybe mid October to mid November. All of a sudden, they beat Ohio State. They win the Big Ten championship, and they're in the single digits where they belong in the top 10. I think it was terrific. And you're right. That's dovetails off success.
Exactly. You not only make sure you keep a Will Johnson, the superstar of the class, and everybody breathing a sigh of relief about
Yeah.
that. You add guys like Darius Clemens and others that came in that you might not have expected as much. Your thoughts on just on the makeup of this class from what you've seen.
Well, I mean, Darius Clemens was a kid who lived here in East Lansing till he was 10 years old, and then moved out of here. And now he's back, and Andrew Anthony knows him, so that's kind of cool. I mean, the Will Johnson thing was a little weird. I mean, that was like, okay, I'm looking, like, when's the big gem coming in here, and with some other friends. Not that I'm a recruit, Nick, and let me tell you something. I do not, JV, embraced the significant background. I mean, your staff at the Wolverine, all the other experts, the Alan Trues, there were all those people are terrific. Okay, and I
Mm-hmm.
learned from them. But I don't even delve into them until they get on campus, until they're in not even spring, but maybe in the fall. I'll start to dive into those freshmen and see who is plausible to play year one. Get to know them and articulate through that way, as opposed to getting all psyched up about him. Oh, like Will Johnson. I remember his brother was a great player at Michigan, or his dad rather, Dion. But I mean, I just, I'm not a recruit, Nick. I will admit that. But that being said, when they're a top 10, I'm at least relieved that they're in the hunt with all the other powers.
Well, and I've always said I will take all the 3-star Mike Harts and 2-star Braylon
Yes.
Edwardses that Michigan can get because we know that there are understarred gems out there all the time, every year. Yes, you have, and I know the argument. You have a greater chance with 5 stars. That's great. Uh, get as many of those as you can, but don't discount the guys that are on that list that some of them are going to come and be really, really good. I
You
want to
know,
talk to
yeah,
Go ahead.
real quick, I want to add one other thing, though. And I think that it shows that the Big Ten East, not only in the regular season, but now in recruiting, when you have a Rutgers and an Indiana have really top 20 recruiting classes, my God, winning the Big Ten East is going to be brutal going forward, which is why I'm glad a lot of these Michigan fans are going down to Miami to embrace the CFP because who knows when this opportunity is going to come up again based purely on the competition of that division.
I hear you. I hear you. I read an interesting article not long ago, and it was from someone who covers Iowa, I believe, and writing about the fact that, my goodness, it's underscored again. The East is so much greater than the
Oh
West. If you
yeah.
win the East, you're in. I know there have been some competitive games where the West is given a run to the East winner, but that's the hurdle. I mean,
Yeah.
it made the point that if you win the West, you might be the third or fourth or fifth best team in the East, and that might be overstating it, but my goodness, there's so much imbalance there.
Yeah, and then look at the SEC. I mean, they've had that imbalance for a long time with the West and the East, the West being the stronger one with Bama. But then you have Georgia sitting over there, with his tent pitched over there, nice having a picnic, being a really good team in the weaker division, and they're going to be sitting there in that berth all the time in the SEC. I think maybe send a Michigan State over to the West to balance it out, and they'll still lock in the Michigan State rivalry. I think that should be poked at. Although I don't want to make it easy for Michigan State, that's for sure. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do in the Big Ten, but it's kind of wacky right now, and so tough to get out and get to Indy. If you get to Indy, you get to the CFP.
Speaking of Michigan State, before we move on to the Georgia and the football playoff, I want to talk just a moment about college football free agency and what its short and long term effects. Its short term effect in East Lansing has been a tremendous payoff for Mel Tucker, $95 million contract, and the being able to beat Michigan this year with an import running back that scored 5 touchdowns. But now we see 15 more Spartans recently leaving the roster, and I certainly Michigan has its attrition and brings in other guys. I'm not saying that, but there seems to be so much emphasis on it up there that it's almost like you come in, and if you don't pan out right away, you get run off, and then it's okay. We're bringing in the free agents, which they're tapping into heavily again. Down the road, do you see that as being a potential problem with when you're dealing with high school programs, when you're trying to recruit, when you're having these relationships with coaches that have had players that were processed, for lack of the better word? Um, your thoughts about that?
Well, you know what it is, John. It means you recruit every day of your life, because you got to recruit your own players every day. You're happy here, right? Right. If you want to keep them, and then and it's like you look and like Michigan State's treating this like a blank canvas. Let's start out with a fresh canvas every year, and
Hmm.
go from there. And Michigan State's looking at the portal as the great equalizer, and I know a lot of other teams are as well. I mean, we say we can't recruit with a traditional incoming freshman. We'll try to be the king of the portal. And my God, as of yesterday, I just learned yesterday from my radio partner Jack Ebling, there are over 1,000 names now in the portal, and I'm guaranteeing you, those 1,000 kids are not going to have a place to land. It's a really dicey thing. If you're a quarterback and you don't play as a freshman, like the kid out of Ohio State is going to go down to his home state of Texas and play for the Longhorns, you're going bye bye. I mean, this is crazy. I think it's going to take that position, director of player personnel, which used to be the recruiting coordinator. Now they got a more power position, director of player personnel. That's an NFL term, by the way, and that's the real orchestra leader of this program. of who's going to be on your team next year, who are going to shove off. It's crazy. And the other one other thing that I want to point out is that when you just miss on somebody, say you just a near miss on a top recruit, hey, keep that relationship going. We might be reeling you in next year in the portal. That's how nuts
Mhm.
this thing is.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And that last statement that you made begs another question. You're talking about quarterbacks. Does Michigan, that I think did an extremely good job of balancing and working JJ McCarthy in along with the starter, who wound up, somebody says, well, somebody said on the fort, talking about a Cade McNamara type, and I said, well, if you mean a Cade McNamara type that's 12-1 and playoff bound and a Big Ten champion and all of that, uh, absolutely, you don't push that person away, but you talking about two guys that I think are capable certainly of playing in the Big Ten. One has proven it, and one has shown all kinds of flashes. Do we see in not only in the playoffs, but I think even more so next year, a greater two quarterback system, for lack of a better word?
Yeah, I mean, Michigan might be, a standalone in that. Have been able to make that thing work because you always hear the old cliche. Yeah, if you have two starting quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks. You have two share, quarterbacks that share. You have none, and I disagree with that wholeheartedly, particularly in this situation because their skill sets are different and their skill sets are all good. I'm I'm probably more bullish on JJ McCarthy than you, John. And it's almost like the Michigan fan base is divided a la the Drew Henson, Tom Brady days. I mean, it was crazy. Are you a Brady guy? Oh no, I'm a Henson guy. I mean, blah blah blah. And that's what's happening right now. But I really think Michigan could make it work. And I'm going to tell you the reason why. JJ McCarthy. I think he's a Michigan man through and through. I think he'd be willing. I mean, he's only a freshman. So if he does the sharing part next year, then he's got that starting slot all to himself in case, unless somebody else comes in, a local kid, as we well know, might be coming in from MLK. I don't know to push him. Who knows? But what I'm saying is that I think it could work next year, and then JJ would be the starter his junior year and see where it goes from there. But I hope that works because I think it's a plus. I would like a little bit more participation from JJ McCarthy next year. I think he deserves it. He brings another element of threat to a defense, and you might see that on December 31st to Georgia when it's needed. That's going to be a compelling moment, I think.
I agree with you, and I think you're going to see it not only perhaps in the playoff game, the first playoff game, but I do think you'll see it next year. I think it's a natural evolution. And you mentioned maybe being a little more bullish on JJ McCarthy than I am. I'm not sure that I agree with that because I am I just think JJ McCarthy is going to be a star. I think
Oh, he's unbelievable.
he's going to be excellent. But I think the perception of me as a quote unquote McNamara guy
Yeah.
comes from the fact that he was getting so much anything from heat to abuse early on. As when is this going to happen? When are they going to? We know it's going to. JJ McCarthy's going to be the quarterback by Ohio State. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about people at large. Uh, when's this going to happen? We know it's inevitable. And I said, I'm not sure it is. I saw Brian Greasy lead a team to the national championship. And here in Cade McNamara, you've got a guy that has played more games already than Greasy played in '97 and has two fewer interceptions with four.
Yep. Yeah, but I want to make one point, and that's an excellent example that you're giving there. But you got to understand something. I mean, you know this. I'm making a point about it.
That's
24
great.
year span from 1997 and now. Offense is the name of the game, as opposed to defense, the name of the game in '97. I mean, there's more pressure. There's more responsibility, accountability, dependability on the quarterback in 2021 than there was in 1997, in my opinion. Because offenses, I mean, these offenses that's what everybody talks about. I mean, Nick Saban learned that. I mean, everybody, Jim Harbaugh's learned that. Everybody's learned that. We have to move the football. And I think that's a little bit different now than versus 97.
But I think some things can be the similar because you went back to the future to beat Ohio State. You held them
That's true.
20 points under their season average, and you ran blocking schemes according to Doug Skeen that were exactly what they were running under Bo Schembechler, with gap blocking as opposed to zone blocking. And so I agree with you. It is not the 90s, but I think there can be some carryover and there can be some middle ground to this thing where I don't think you have to that you have to be a throw it every down offense. They beat Ohio State because they beat Ohio State up, and
Yeah, but well, let's revisit this on January 11th when Michigan were celebrating the national championship from the night before. Okay, and we'll see what happens in these next two games to see if
well,
that formula still works.
regardless, Georgia and Alabama, which I would say that Michigan would get if it beats Georgia, are really exceptional teams. You get to that level, you're going to have your hands full anyway. So, but I hear what you're saying. You have to mix in the ability to be explosive, and
Hmm.
that's the beauty of what I think that they've done. Here you've got, if you go by 50-yard plus plays, the most explosive team in America with Michigan. You saw that Iowa was going to play you a tougher defense. And so what did you do? You ramped it up. You've got Donovan Edwards unleashing the football, and you've got other explosive plays happening. I think they know they're going to have that against Georgia, and I think that's going to be one of the key things because you know that Georgia is going to sell out to stop the run and take that away. And I think a big difference is going to be what does Michigan do in those circumstances? When can you catch them? Can you make them pay? Can you produce those kind of big plays and get the edge on the Bulldogs that way?
Yeah, and my concern is actually, I mean, all great points, and we are looking at that matchup of Michigan's offense, Georgia defense. But I agree with Angelique Chengelis. She was on the BetCon Network the other night, and about it's Georgia's offense against Michigan defense is really going to be telling, and Michigan's defense has got to stop them. They cannot allow Georgia to run the football, and I'll be. You can bet this, bet the store on the farm on this one that Georgia's going to look at that Michigan State tape. They're the only loss that Michigan had, and they're going to look at that Michigan State tape and figure out how the Spartans ran all over Michigan in that third and fourth quarter. With Kenneth Walker, I know they don't have a Kenneth Walker on their team, but Michigan has got to stop the run, and if they don't stop the run, they're in a whole pack of trouble on the night of the 31st.
Well, what they'll start looking at is, okay, is Michigan switching defenses on two of our touchdowns like they were with Michigan State?
No,
And if you're
yeah,
Michigan, hopefully you have
that's
that
true.
fixed by now. That's
Good point.
absolutely. I mean, that was one of the things that, I mean, even Aiden Hutchinson, who is all Michigan, I mean, to the bone marrow, said in the post game in his frustration and anger, they scored two touchdowns while we were still switching out. That
Yeah,
can't be. And
right.
and I think it's really the same story whether it's Michigan's offense against Georgia's defense, Georgia's offense against Michigan. They're both going to want to stop the run. Georgia's averaging 5 yards a crack by their top runners. If they are able to make that against Michigan, it's not going to go well. And so I think Michigan's defense, you've gotten to the point where uh, uh, their new defensive coordinator has come in, Mike McDonald, and done a really really good job overall. Now you have to be ready with that system to have the people you want on the field and be able to slow down that run game and make Georgia's quarterback throw the football more.
Yeah, I'm feeling a 17-14 slobber knocker coming on in that game. I really do. I think defense is going to reign. It's going to be a physical game. I mean, there's some extraordinary athletes on that Georgia defense, and the same thing holds for Michigan with the two great defensive and everybody seems to be stepping up. This is the thing I like about Michigan this year that has not happened in the past. you have players emerging both sides of the ball that got better as the season went on all the way to the end. Mike Sainristil is an example on offense. Rod Moore is an example on defense. DJ Turner. That's something we've been wanting to see, and we're seeing it, and that's why they're down in Miami.
Well, I hope it is a 17-14 game because for one, it's that throwback game and
Yes.
it's not the 55-54 double overtime. And it certainly allows a team like Michigan to have a great chance to with its defense and with its big playability to pull something off and beat Georgia. I'm really looking forward to this one. Any other aspects around this playoff game that you want to talk about? We're going to talk about basketball as well, but before we shift into hard court mode, any other thoughts on your mind about this game that you think you want to address?
Well, I mean, and this goes back to the old days of Michigan would beat Ohio State in the 70s and 80s. They have a lot of momentum playing their best ball at the end of the year. And then came the off period, all right? And they go out to the Rose Bowl, and let's just say they did not pick up where they left off. I'm just really interested in seeing. I mean, Michigan was in and on a roll with that back end. Those back-to-back games, Ohio State. I mean, I thought they played well in the Maryland game, and the Penn State game was huge. I mean, they finished strong, and it's now then comes the off period, and can they regenerate that momentum and fire? I'm sure they will, but I'm confident they will. But it's like those first couple series in the game, there's going to be a lot of, I'm going to be looking with a microscope of how that goes, and are they picking right back up where they left off? Because I think those off periods of the gap of 3.5 whatever weeks it was. Granted, I mean, in the old days it was the Saturday before Thanksgiving. Michigan was done. They didn't even play Thanksgiving weekend, the Michigan Ohio State game, and then they played January 1. This is a little tighter off period, so maybe that'll be the difference. And I just hope that they can regenerate that momentum.
And I think the other difference could be Michigan has a more, and we're talking about old days to new days, certainly a more evolved, complex, and pass effective offense to throw at an opponent. And I think as
Right.
Georgia tries to cheat those safeties up and stop the run, the crossing patterns, the guys like Andrell Anthony and some of your other receivers could make a massive difference in this game. And so we'll see how that all plays out. Switching to the hard court, certainly Michigan is still on the whipsaw. Minnesota. Oh,
Oh,
that's the end. This team is just not going to be very good. And then you get signs of life in the next one, and I understand it wasn't a Big Ten game or anything, but you see a Devontae Jones rise up and start making some threes, and some other guys come forward. I that those were very positive steps in that game. But you get tonight another chance to work on that. How are your emotions with this team as you see the certainly the stumbles that we didn't expect before the season, and then these little signs of life as in terms of okay, well, maybe this is not going to be the struggle that we thought.
I'm shocked I'm saying this. A conquest of the Southern Utah Thunderbirds would be a quote unquote turning point of the season tonight. And I'm not overstating that. But I was sitting courtside of this game with a friend of mine up close. And you get to see things right as opposed to we're up, we're in the media level and that second level. But I mean, Michigan has got to they got to hold on tighter to the ball. I mean, they seem to not absorb the basketball and have too many takeaways. That being said, I really was pleased with what I saw in Devontae Jones and a couple other kids like Zeb Jackson. Zeb Jackson gets his feet under him, his shoulders are straight. That guy's got a decent shot. If Michigan can develop their backcourt play, and Devontae Jones is going to be he's going to click on. It's just been this transition problem. Hunter Dickinson was talking about it the other day. It's not going to be a seamless transition from a Coastal Carolina You're playing in the Sun Belt to the Big Ten. So and I think he's really focused. I love Frankie Collins, though. I'm going to state that right now. I'm going to promise you he's going to be my favorite player for the next at least 3 years, unless and maybe he'll go to the NBA after that. Who knows how good he's. This kid is the answer. I kid you not. He's got competence. He's got skills. And it's just polish and I just like the way he carries himself. I like the way he communicates the the upperclassmen. I just like what I saw on Frankie Collins. And every time I've seen him play, I mean, even in these bad games, the first half against Carolina, first half against Arizona, you saw those, glimpses of what this cat is all about. That's a name that that's a Derek Walton in the making. I'm declaring it right now, JB.
So what you're basically saying that Frankie Collins is basketball's JJ McCarthy.
Yeah, that
Sure.
guy that I just, that I get overly excited about and I don't think straight with. Yep, he's my JJ McCarthy. That's a perfect illustration. Good job there, my friend.
Well, and I like the fact, I mean, certainly he's making an impact now, but as he grows, as he gets better with his shot and with his
Yes.
ability to play ball screens and with his knowledge of the college game, those tools, and I mentioned Ricky Green before, I see him bringing the basketball up, the tempo picks up when he's on the
Yep.
court. I think, this kid could be really special down the road.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you brought up Hunter Dickinson because listening to him talk, you understood. It was a good reminder. He's saying no, it's not only Devonte Jones getting adjusted. You've got all these
Oh
freshmen
yeah.
they're asked to be played to play really big roles. And not every true freshman that comes onto a college roster is going to be a Hunter Dickinson right from the start. For one thing, Hunter Dickinson had the advantage of being 7'1", so he's kind of above it all. But he was also he played such a high level in high school and in AAU and different things that he was battle tested against college players before he came to Michigan. I'm not saying it wasn't that these guys that are coming in haven't played the competition, but what I am saying is you don't just snap your fingers and get Hunter Dickinson level production out of freshmen, and they are getting adjusted. I want to see even more the difference between them now and say mid February.
Oh yeah, and I liked Hunter's point, referencing practice. He saw this past week leading up after that Minnesota debacle, how he saw all of a sudden things start clicking in practice. And practice is a cornerstone of how you play. How you practice is how you play. And he was that's a good leader that Hunter's noticing that stuff. And I know I mean, he looked out of sorts in the Carolina game. But I'm liking, once again up close the other night in a rare opportunity. I like what I see up close to Hunter Dickinson. I think he's going to have a great year. Look, this team because of their schedule, John, Big Ten wise, they got to go to the Rutgers. Right before the new year. That's their third Big Ten team, and then they got Michigan State on the 8th, who's going to push, and then and Purdue coming in on the 11th. You might think this is weird saying that, but Michigan just needs to win one of those three, and they're still going to be all right. They're going to be all right because I just like that. I don't know that 13 team or that 11, that 2011 team. They were 1-6. They beat Michigan State up at Breslin. I think it was 11 team. All of a sudden, when Zach was there, Zach Novak, and Stu Douglas, and their season flipped. It might be one of those scenarios where Michigan goes sub 500 record wise in the Big Ten, and then it clicks just like you said in February, and it might even be late January. This is an NCAA tournament team. I'll make that declaration right now.
All right, that's a great note to end on. Tom Crawford, always fun to talk Michigan football and basketball with you. We will do it again next week, and appreciate you
Yes,
so much, my friend. Have a great holiday season, and
you too.
again, appreciate you being on with us.
Happy holidays to all the Wolverine.com listeners, and we'll talk to you next week. It'll be just a few days prior to the Orange Bowl, and I'm looking forward to it.